Tonight, we drift back to the edge of the Australian coast. A quiet evening in October 1978. The kind where the air cools slowly and sky turns glassy just after sunset. A young pilot takes off from the small suburban airport near Melbourne. He's alone in the cockpit. He knows a route, and he's done everything by the book. He's headed towards a small island across a stretch of sea known for his choppy moods. 47 minutes into the flight, he radios air traffic control. He sounds calm, but something's wrong. He says there's another aircraft in the sky. He doesn't recognize it, and it's moving strangely, and it's getting close. 6 minutes later, he says the thing is hovering above him. Then, there's silence. No crash, no signal, no body. Just a name in a report and a metallic sound that's never been explained. This is a story of Frederick Valentich, the man who walked into thin air. The day had been clear. At 6 p.m., the shadow across the tarmac at Moorabbin Airport has started to stretch. There was a breeze, but nothing serious. Just enough to rustle a loose tie or push dust across the hangar floor. Frederick Valentich arrived with a small flight bag, his headset, and a flight plan already filed. He was flying the Cessna 182L, a 4-seat, single-engine plane. It was white, with a blue trim. It wasn't fast, but it was reliable. He was 20 years old, not a kid, not a veteran. Young enough to be bold, but serious about flying. He'd trained carefully, if not perfectly. He'd failed a few assessments, mostly for judgment calls. He'd once flown into a cloud when he wasn't supposed to, but no one thought he was dangerous. In fact, most instructors said the opposite. Frederick played it safe, sometimes too safe. At 6:19 p.m., he lifted off. His destination, King Island. The route he chose was simple, directly south across the Bass Strait. The airspace was quiet that evening. There was no traffic, no military exercises, no logged anomalies, just open sky and the sound of his own engine. He climbed to 4,500 feet and kept in regular contact with Melbourne Flight Service. The light was fading by 7 p.m. The ocean below would have looked like a single dark sheet softening into the horizon. At 7:06, he radioed in. Melbourne, this is Delta Sierra Juliet. Is there any known traffic below 5,000? The voice on the other end replied, Negative, no known traffic. There shouldn't have been anything near him, but something was. Frederick said it was large, metallic, and moving quickly, just above him. He described it with care, as though trying to convince himself it was explainable. He said it passed over him at high speed, and then a minute later, it returned. But this time, it seemed to be orbiting his position, deliberately circling him. He kept speaking in calm, clipped sentences, but you can hear it, just slightly, as the minutes pass. He said the object had 4 bright lights, said it shimmered strangely, and at one point, he suggested it might be a military aircraft playing games, but he didn't sound certain. Then he said something different. It's not an aircraft. Melbourne Flight Service tried to ask more questions. Frederick's answers came slower. He said the object had disappeared briefly, but came back again. This time, he could see it hovering above him and not moving. Then he said his engine was running rough. His voice never cracked, but something in the rhythm was off, like he was trying to stay professional while his instincts were screaming. It's hovering, and it's not an aircraft, he said. Then, silence. For 17 seconds, the frequency recorded a metallic sound. Not static, not engine sputter, a pulsing, grinding tone, mechanical, and unnatural. Then the line went dead. They lost the search that night. The Royal Australian Air Force, the Navy, civilian boats, helicopters with floodlights combing the coast. For 7 days, they scoured the strait. They looked along his flight path, drift patterns, even into shallow coves along the mainland. They found nothing. No old slick, no seat cushion, no life vest. He'd packed 4. Frederick Valentich and his Cessna were gone. Frederick lived at home with his parents in the suburbs. He'd wanted to fly since he was a boy. His bedroom had posters of planes, a copy of the Civil Aviation Handbook, and a pile of notebooks filled with training notes. He was quiet and focused. And he was also fascinated by unidentified flying objects. He talked about them openly, not obsessively, but enough that his friends remembered. A week before the flight, he told his father, "If a UFO ever lands near me, I'm going to go aboard." It sounded like a joke at the time. The official investigation explored every possibility. They examined the weather. It was calm. There were no storm fronts and no turbulence reports, and the visibility had been good. Could it have been disorientation? Maybe. Over water, at twilight, pilots sometimes lose the horizon. But his tone was steady, his altitude consistent. Could it have been a prank or a hoax? If so, it would have required an accomplice, vague documents, and a lifelong disappearance. He had no motive, no money, no passport, nothing to suggest he was planning anything but a short flight to a quiet island. Could it have been a crash? That's the most accepted theory, a sudden descent into the sea. But the lack of debris, nothing, not even the smallest trace, makes that hard to accept without hesitation. And then, there's the recording. That sound, recorded and archived. It's not white noise, not static, not wind across a mic. It pulses, mechanical, like something grinding in the wrong key. Audio engineers who reviewed it said they couldn't match it to any known aircraft engine malfunction. And there's no cockpit behavior to explain the noise lasting that long, uninterrupted. 17 seconds. And then, nothing. After news broke of the disappearance, witnesses came forward. Along the southern coast of Victoria, several people reported green lights in the sky that night. One farmer said he saw a low aircraft with a glowing object trailing it, matching the flight path and time. Others described hovering lights, sudden vertical movement, and silence. The official report didn't include these statements. The local papers did, and the stories have stayed in circulation ever since. No one knows what happened after that final transmission. Maybe the ocean took him quietly. Maybe the engine failed, and he disappeared into waves that closed as quickly as they opened. Or maybe, just maybe, something else was out there. Something he saw. Something we weren't ready to explain. Something he tried to describe as calmly as he could, while the rest of the world listened in disbelief. That's it for now. Another long stretch behind us. Until next time, this was the Rest Stop Files.